You walk past the kitchen sink and there it is again. That smell. Not strong enough to make you stop what you're doing, but enough that you notice it every single time. A faint, damp, almost rotten smell coming up from somewhere down in the drain. You've poured boiling water down there. You've run the disposal longer than you needed to. You've sprayed air freshener near the sink more times than you'd like to admit. The smell always comes back within a day or two. Somewhere in your bathroom, there's a drain that's gotten slow. Not blocked, water still goes down, but slower than it used to. And you've started noticing the water pooling around your ankles for a few extra seconds in the shower before it finally clears. What I'm going to show you tonight costs about $1. Comes from the same brown bottle that's probably already sitting in your medicine cabinet and addresses both of these problems in a way that the vinegar and baking soda trick, the one that's been shared online more times than anyone could count, simply does not. I'm Hope Yoda, and before I tell you what's in this bottle and how to use it, I want to talk for a moment about that vinegar and baking soda method, because I think understanding why it doesn't do what people think it does is the key to understanding why what I'm about to show you actually works. When you pour baking soda down a drain and follow it with vinegar, you get that satisfying fizz, the foam rising up and sometimes even coming back out of the drain a little. It looks like something powerful is happening. And chemically, something is happening, but it's not what most people think. Vinegar is an acid, baking soda is a base. When they meet, they neutralize each other, producing water, a little carbon dioxide gas, which is the bubbles you're seeing, and a salt called sodium acetate. That reaction is essentially complete within a few seconds. It's a one-time burst, and once it's done, it's done. The fizzing might dislodge a little loose debris near the surface through the agitation of the bubbles, but it has done essentially nothing to the buildup coating the inside of your pipes, and nothing at all to the bacteria that are actually producing that smell. What's actually in this brown bottle is hydrogen peroxide, the same 3% solution you'd use on a scraped knee, and it costs about $1 for a 16-ounce bottle at any pharmacy or grocery store. And the reason it works where vinegar and baking soda doesn't comes down to one simple difference. Vinegar and baking soda neutralize each other. Hydrogen peroxide oxidizes. Let me explain what that actually means, because it matters for how you use it. Hydrogen peroxide is water with one extra oxygen atom attached, and that extra oxygen atom is held on loosely. The molecule is naturally unstable, and it wants to break apart into plain water and free oxygen. When hydrogen peroxide comes into contact with organic material, things like the proteins in hair, the fats and oils in soap scum, and especially the cell walls of bacteria, that breakdown happens fast. And as it happens, the released oxygen actively attacks and breaks apart the molecular structure of whatever it's touching. This is an oxidation reaction, and it is fundamentally different from a neutralization reaction. A neutralization reaction is two things cancelling each other out. An oxidation reaction is one thing actively tearing apart the structure of another. That fizzing and bubbling you'll see when you pour hydrogen peroxide down a drain that has buildup in it isn't a one-time burst like vinegar and baking soda. It's the sound and sight of oxidation actively happening, oxygen being released as it breaks down the organic film coating your pipes, and as it destroys the bacteria living in that film. The more buildup there is, the more vigorous that reaction will be, and the longer it will continue, because it keeps reacting as long as there's organic material for it to work on. This is also why, if you've ever used vinegar and baking soda and then immediately followed it with hydrogen peroxide, you may have noticed almost no fizzing at all from the peroxide. People sometimes take this as a sign the peroxide isn't working. It's actually the opposite. The vinegar in the previous step has already shifted the conditions inside the pipe, and what little organic material the vinegar and baking soda left behind has already been neutralized chemically in a way that gives the peroxide less to react with right away. If you want to see what hydrogen peroxide can really do, use it on its own, on a drain that hasn't just been treated with something else, and you'll see the difference immediately. And this brings me to the smell, because the smell is almost always bacteria. not just stuff sitting in the pipe. The biofilm that builds up inside drain pipes, that slimy coating you'd see if you ever looked inside an older drain pipe with a camera, is full of bacteria. And certain bacteria produce sulfur compounds as a byproduct of their activity, which is exactly that rotten egg, swampy smell coming up from your drain. Vinegar and baking soda do essentially nothing to that bacterial population. Hydrogen peroxide's oxidation directly damages bacterial cell membranes and kills them. You're not masking the smell, you're eliminating what's producing it. Now, I want to be just as honest with you about what this does not do. Because there's a version of this online too, showing hydrogen peroxide instantly dissolving a hair clog or clearing a completely blocked drain in seconds. And that is not realistic. And I don't want you pouring this down a fully blocked drain, expecting it to clear on its own and being disappointed. Hydrogen peroxide breaks down organic buildup and kills bacteria. What it does not do is dissolve a solid mass, like a tangled clump of hair with soap scum wrapped around it. The kind of clog that actually stops water from going down at all. If your drain is completely blocked, water sitting and not moving, this is not your first step. You'll need to physically remove that clog first, with a drain snake, a plunger, or by removing the trap under the sink, whichever is appropriate for where the blockage is. Once that clog is out and water is flowing again, even if slowly, that's when hydrogen peroxide becomes valuable, both to clean up what's left coating the pipe walls and to make sure that slow build-up doesn't turn into another full blockage down the road. So think of it this way. If your drain is slow, but still draining, or if your drain is draining fine but smells bad, this is exactly the right tool. And it's the right tool to use regularly, not just when there's a problem. If your drain is completely stopped, deal with the physical blockage first, and then use this afterward as part of getting things back to normal and keeping them that way. Let me walk you through exactly how to use it, because there are a few different situations and the method is slightly different for each. For a kitchen or bathroom sink drain that's draining fine but has started to smell, or that you simply want to maintain so it never gets to the point of smelling or slowing down, pour about half a cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide directly down the drain. You'll likely see some fizzing right away if there's any build-up at all, even build-up you couldn't see or smell yet. Let it sit for 15 to 30 minutes, undisturbed. Don't run water during this time, because you want it to stay in contact with the inside of the pipe, rather than getting diluted and washed away immediately. After it's sat, flush the drain with hot water for about 30 seconds. For maintenance, doing this once every week or two is plenty to keep a drain smelling clean and draining well. For a drain that's noticeably slow, water pooling for several seconds before it clears, but not fully blocked, the treatment is a bit stronger. Sprinkle a couple tablespoons of baking soda down the drain first, just plain baking soda, nothing else yet. Then slowly pour about a cup of hydrogen peroxide down on top of it. You'll get a more vigorous reaction this time, more foaming, and that's the baking soda providing a slightly alkaline environment that the hydrogen peroxide's oxidation works even more effectively in, combined with there simply being more build-up for it to react with in a slow drain. Let this sit for a full hour, or if the drain has been slow for a long time and the build-up is significant, leave it overnight. Then flush thoroughly with hot water. You may need to repeat this once a week for 2 or 3 weeks if the build-up has been accumulating for a long time, but you should notice the drain running faster after each treatment. For a garbage disposal, which is one of the worst offenders for kitchen odours because of all the small bits of food that get caught on the blades and the underside of the splash guard, pour about half a cup of hydrogen peroxide directly into the disposal. Let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes without running anything, and then run cold water while you briefly run the disposal itself. The combination of the oxidation breaking down what's stuck to the blades and splash guard, plus the disposal's motion helping work it loose, makes a real difference, often noticeably reducing kitchen odour with the very first treatment. A bathroom sink or tub drain deserves its own mention, because it's almost always a slightly different situation than a kitchen drain. In the kitchen, what builds up is mostly grease, soap, and food particles. In the bathroom, it's soap scum, the minerals from your water, and hair is where I want to be careful with you again. A few stray hairs caught in the biofilm along the pipe wall, hydrogen peroxide will help break down the protein in those, along with everything else, over repeated treatments. An actual hair clog, a tangled mass of hair with soap scum bound around it sitting in the trap, is a physical object, and as I said earlier, that needs to come out mechanically first. What I'd suggest for a bathroom drain that's slow but not blocked is the same baking soda, followed by hydrogen peroxide treatment I described for slow drains, left overnight, once a week for 2 or 3 weeks. You'll likely notice the water draining faster after each treatment, as the biofilm and the loose buildup around any hair that's there gets broken down, even if there's still a clog underneath that eventually needs to come out by hand. I want to spend a moment on safety, because this is genuinely one of the safer things you can pour down a drain. But there are a few things worth knowing. 3% is the concentration you want, and it's the standard concentration sold for household and first aid use. There are higher concentrations sold for other purposes, sometimes labelled as food grade or industrial grade, and those are not what you want for this, and shouldn't be handled without real protective equipment, because at higher concentrations, hydrogen peroxide can burn skin and eyes. The brown bottle from the pharmacy at 3% is what this entire method is built around. And at that concentration, it's safe to handle normally, though I'd still suggest not getting it directly in your eyes, same as you would with anything. The one thing I do want to be clear about is not combining this with other cleaning products, especially anything containing bleach. Mixing hydrogen peroxide with bleach produces a reaction that releases a gas that you do not want to breathe, particularly in the closed space under a sink or in a bathroom with the door shut. If you've recently used a bleach-based cleaner in a drain, give it time and flush thoroughly with water before using hydrogen peroxide in that same drain. And in general, this works best and most safely on its own, not layered with other products. One advantage worth mentioning, especially for anyone on a septic system rather than a municipal sewer line. Many commercial drain cleaners, particularly the strong lye-based ones, are hard on the bacteria that your septic tank actually depends on to break down waste, and using them regularly can disrupt how well your septic system functions. Hydrogen peroxide, used in the moderate amounts described here, breaks down into plain water and oxygen, and doesn't carry that same risk to your septic system the way harsher chemical drain cleaners can. There's one more place this works that most people never think to check, and that's a washing machine. Particularly a front-loading machine, where the rubber gasket around the door and the detergent drawer are notorious for developing that same musty mildew smell over time, for exactly the same reason as a drain. Soap residue and moisture sitting in a dark, enclosed space is the perfect environment for the same kind of bacterial film. Pour about a cup of hydrogen peroxide directly into the empty drum and run a hot water cycle with nothing else in it. For the rubber gasket itself, fold it back and wipe along the inside of it with a cloth dampened in hydrogen peroxide, because that's where a lot of the smell is actually hiding, in the folds of that gasket where water sits after every wash. Do this once a month and that musty smell that makes your clean laundry come out smelling slightly off simply stops happening. The same goes for a dishwasher. Pour about half a cup into the bottom of an empty dishwasher and run a hot cycle. If your dishwasher has started smelling like the inside of a drain, it's because, in a sense, it is one. The same food residue and standing water building up the same bacterial film in the filter and around the door seal. I think about this kind of thing more broadly than just drains. So much of what gets sold to fix a problem in your home is built around a dramatic before and after. A big reaction. A strong smell of chemicals that makes you feel like something powerful must be happening. And often the gentler thing, the thing that's been sitting in the medicine cabinet the whole time for an entirely different purpose, does the actual work more effectively and without the harshness. This kind of household knowledge, the kind that uses what you already have for more than its original purpose, is part of what's in the books, alongside the garden knowledge and the food preservation and the rest of it. The link is in the description if you want it. I won't bring it up again in this video. And if you want more of this kind of thing regularly, the everyday household fixes, with somewhere to ask questions about your own specific situation, that's what the community at that same link is for. Now, the honest math. because I think it matters.
A basic plumber's visit just to clean and maintain a slow drain typically runs somewhere between $100 and $250. And if they're doing hydrojetting on a more significant buildup, that can run $300 to $600. Commercial enzyme drain treatments, the kind marketed for monthly maintenance, run $10 to $15 a bottle. And if you're using one a month across a couple of drains, that's well over $100 a year. And the strong chemical drain cleaners, while cheaper per bottle at $8 to $12, are hard on older pipes with repeated use and, as I mentioned, hard on a septic system if you have one. A 16-ounce bottle of 3% hydrogen peroxide costs about $1, and a bottle that size will get you through several treatments across multiple drains in your house. Used for routine maintenance, weekly on a kitchen sink, every couple of weeks on bathroom drains, the annual cost is measured in a handful of dollars, not in hundreds. Here's what I'd like you to do tonight. Pick the drain in your house that smells the worst, or the one that's been running slowest. Pour in about half a cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide. If it's just a smell problem, let it sit 15 to 30 minutes and flush with hot water. If it's been slow, sprinkle some baking soda down first, then the hydrogen peroxide, and let it sit overnight. Then do the same for every other drain in the house over the next few days. Kitchen sink, bathroom sinks, the shower or tub drain, and the garbage disposal if you have one. Tell me in the comments which drain in your house is the worst one, the smelliest or the slowest, and what you've tried on it before. And if anyone in your family had their own old way of dealing with drain smells before all these products existed, I'd like to hear about that too. Those small things that never made it onto a bottle label are worth holding on to. Next time, since tonight was about maintenance and build-up, I want to show you what to actually do when a drain is completely blocked, not just slow. The physical methods for getting a real clog out without calling anyone. And then how to use what we covered tonight afterward so it doesn't come back. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Half a cup down the drain, let it sit, flush with hot water, and do it again next week. That dollar bottle has been sitting in medicine cabinets, doing this work quietly for longer than most of these fancy drain products have existed. And that's how it's still done. In any house that remembers.